There are loads of different types of players out there, some looking for a means of unwinding, some looking for immersion, and some looking for a good old challenge. For the latter, gaming has always been more than happy to provide, and from arcade leaderboards to the advent of achievements and trophies, there are many ways to show off that you've mastered a game. Now, most trophies/achievements are tied to natural progression or key moments in a narrative, with most bigger titles being kind enough to not lock any remaining content should you wish to see the story through first. However, what about the rest? What about the games that are 70 to 100 plus hours long with missable items or quests slap bang in the middle? The dreaded prompt of "there's no turning back" before a climactic battle is supposed to encourage you to see everything, but what if you can't? What if it's already too late and the only solution is to start the whole thing all over again? I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 video games impossible to 100% if you hit credits. And yes, the answer to all of these is start the whole thing again. Number 8, Persona 5. Persona 5 swiftly became one of the most beloved in the franchise amongst fans and newcomers alike. The game is full of excellent combat and character work that series veterans had come to expect. However, anyone jumping into this game in hopes of achieving 100% better have their walkthroughs ready, because there are tons of missable things. Like many Persona titles, 5 is all about time and resource management. Side missions can be easily overlooked on a casual playthrough just by missing a certain text or failing to complete other tasks within the allotted time. The very worst offender, however, is a new addition for Persona 5. It's now impossible to recover a range of armor, weapons, and accessories that are in chests after defeating any of the palace dungeon bosses. After finishing a particular palace boss, all unobtained loot is lost forever unless you start over. One super egregious example is the Atom Ring, added in Persona 5 Royal, which is tucked away inside the Museum Palace. If you don't have enough lockpicks at the time, providing you also know where to look in the first place, you're just straight out of luck. Number 7, Fable 2. The Fable games are brilliant in that they allow you to craft your own journey across Albion, whether for good or evil. For the most part, this doesn't impede any kind of core progression, but on several occasions, you are going to be tasked with deciding between the fate of various characters. Choices range from killing or sparing NPCs like Ripper to sacrificing the life of your sibling and dog for the good of the people. Either way, the ultimate decision means the difference between being able to complete Fable 2 in its entirety or regretting that you didn't make a backup save. While there are a number of missable items in the original Fable needed to unlock all of the demon doors, Fable 2's missable items feel that much worse. Legendary Blunderbuss the Enforcer can only be dug up thanks to your loyal dog companion, who sadly perishes during the game's closing moments. 3 of the game's achievements, the Pooch Pamperer, the Archaeologist, and the Dog Trainer, are also directly tied to interactions with your dog. Thankfully, one of the 3 endings allows you to bring your faithful companion back, but for the others, he's gone for good. Number 6, South Park: The Stick of Truth. A surprisingly excellent turn-based strategy game, South Park: The Stick of Truth is actually one of the most recommendable RPGs of the entire generation. Despite a few delays, the game turned out to be a hit and eventually spawned a sequel. In the first title, there are several collectibles to find throughout the story and hidden in the large open world. The main 2 to look out for are the Chin Pokemon, South Park's answer to Pokemon. Just like the IP they're ripping off, you've got to catch them all to reap the rewards. The second batch of collectibles are the friend requests that you can receive from characters in the game. Both of these have entirely missable figures and characters linked to them due to South Park's inclusion of areas only available once in the story. Areas like the alien spaceship and Mr. Slave's intestines can only be reached once across a given story's progression. You really need to know what you're on the lookout for, otherwise it's a full-on restart. The struggle of speaking with every NPC in the area or rummaging through every piece of trash in sight is thankfully rewarded with some extra lines of hilarious dialogue, but you really need to make sure you're planning this whole thing out if you're gonna see everything. Number 5, Kingdom Hearts. While the plot and characters of Kingdom Hearts are about as complex as building IKEA furniture in the dark without any instructions, at least it's always been a big old fun action RPG. That said, there aren't that many collectibles despite being set in a large semi-open world. In the first game, as fans can attest, there are some tricky collectibles in the form of trinities, which you need to locate and get all 3 party members to interact with at once to activate. The worst one of these comes during the Nightmare Before Christmas level, where a section of a mansion housing the Trinity gets locked off after fighting that world's boss, Oogie Boogie. Fans cried foul so loudly that Square Enix relocated the Trinity in re-release Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, but in this initial version, the pain was very real. Number 4, The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt. CD Projekt Red's third venture into the works of Andrzej Sapkowski is still regarded as a masterpiece and remains one of the most played RPGs across multiple platforms. The game is praised for its story and world building through side quests and various other activities. And there's no activity quite so unforgiving but enjoyable as Gwent. To gain access to that sweet platinum trophy, you'll need to gather every unique Gwent card in the game. In order to do that, you need to pester countless specific NPCs into playing around with you, despite not all of them being available all the time. Some NPCs, like the Bloody Baron, are in possession of one of these unique Gwent cards you need to find, but depending on your choices, he might not be there after that questline finishes. If you miss a single card because you progress too far in the dialogue options or the story overall, then you can kiss that 100% stat goodbye. Number 3, Mad Max. Releasing on the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5 and being completely overlooked because of it, the Mad Max game is a frontrunner for the most underrated title of the generation. Solid fighting mechanics and most importantly fun driving combat feel like they're straight out of Fury Road. However, therein lies the problem. Most of the game's challenges needed for that 100% to pop are directly tied to combat. Developer Avalanche Studios made the very odd decision then to only have a finite amount of enemies spawn in the world. Defeat 8 enemies in melee combat in a row without taking any damage might sound easy, but it's impossible if there are no more camps of enemies left. So if you'd successfully defeated all of the enemies and camps along the way to the credits, you were totally stuck. Up to the Task is the rarest trophy in the game because of this, and unless you thought ahead, it's time to do it all over again. Number 2, Red Dead Redemption 2. There are so many different activities in this game that it's hard to know where to begin. Only the most committed of cowpokes out there will manage to obtain everything Red Dead 2 has to offer simply due to the sheer dedication needed to unlock it all. Some missable things involve doing side quests with certain characters who can disappear as the story unfolds, alongside finding special items to give those characters who might have then disappeared. The very worst achievements, however, are tied to the game's hunting system. In order to complete 2 very specific trophy/achievements, you need to skin and study every single species of animal in the game. While this sounds relatively simple if not kinda grindy, a few of these animals are entirely unique to Guarma. Guarma, the island, is only accessible for a brief portion of the campaign, and it's impossible to get back to after leaving. What's worse is the extremely linear nature of the island's missions, giving you hardly any spare time to go out and explore. 3 different types of macaw, 4 different snakes, an iguana, a crab, and the elusive red-footed booby are all native to Guarma. If you didn't think to look during this portion of the game that really doesn't feel like it's open world at all, there's no going back. And number 1, Grand Theft Auto 5. Like Red Dead 2, GTA 5 can be impossible to finish after completing the main story. While not exactly the same as the problems a Red Dead player will encounter that I just detailed, the missable content in GTA 5 is contingent on which ending you choose. Coming quite surprisingly when the final mission sees Franklin decide who he's going to kill or spare between the other 2 protagonists, Michael and Trevor. Once the mission begins, your choices are A, kill Trevor, B, kill Michael, or C, death wish. Picking either A or B will result in losing any unfinished side quests associated with that character, and you must make a choice on the spot. An entire saga of side stories is dedicated to Michael joining a parody cult called Epsilon, and that gets wasted on his death. On the other hand, Trevor has multiple optional rampages that he can go on, concluding in an insane massacre of a bunch of hipsters. Not to mention, choosing C, Death Wish, is one of the game's most entertaining and satisfying missions, but going around murdering everyone who had double-crossed the trio also means that you're losing out on any of their attached missions as well. Needless to say, for the vast majority of these titles, you need to plan the whole thing out from the beginning, which is just annoying if you don't realize it until the end. Either way, these have been our picks for various video games impossible to get 100% on if you hit the credits first. Let me know your favorites down in the comments below, and please check out the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast if you have the time. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com, and I'll catch you soon.